Ahoy, hoy.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Outside the Cinema, your weekly source for cult movie discussion. Thank you for being with us. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you. If you are watching us on Twitch, thank you. If you can go back and watch the episodes on Twitch on demand too. Actually, somebody asked about that the other day. That was like, I think you guys are on Twitch, but I'm not around when you guys are on. Twitch keeps everything, for like 60 or 90 days, so you can go back and watch the episodes on demand.
Well, that's good.
If you're interested in that. Because I don't think I've been posting them to YouTube recently.
Okay, yeah, no, I haven't seen them.
Also wasn't looking for them, though, so go figure. But yeah, welcome back to the show, everyone. Another Patreon show this week. These are David from Australia's picks. I'm just going to We're going to get right to the nitty-gritty. These are David's picks this week. So this week on the show, we are doing two very specific Australian films, specific even to like the suburbs of a certain area. Suburbs of Melbourne is where we will be heading this week. We will be doing two films with very famous actors before like their like most famous roles, which is always fun and interesting to do. So we're doing The Efficiency Expert, starring Anthony Hopkins, also known as Spotswood. I believe Spotswood is the original title, the original Australian title, and Efficiency Expert is the international and U.S. title for the film, and that was 1992. And then we have Sam in the Mouth of Madness, Neil, among other roles. I guess he was in Jurassic Park too, but that's beside the point.
And one.
Sorry, he was in Jurassic Park also, and part 2.
And 3.
Oh yeah, he was in 3. 3 is for me, 3 is the forgotten Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah, it really is.
Even with the newer ones, like the newer ones are good, but 3 is like the one that I just like completely forget existed.
Yep.
Death in Brunswick from 1990. These are David C's picks, because we had another David's picks last week, and then we've got, I think, another David coming up next week. Yeah, we're doing David W's picks next week. So
yeah.
So a lot of Davids, and then we got Donnie's picks. Donnie gave us picks that we're gonna do, and Austin. Let's give a shout out to Austin, who just signed up for the Patreon the other day. Actually, let me send him. He sent me a message requesting the link to the archives. Which, you know what? Why not do it while we're recording? That way, I can be held accountable for him not having them yet. But if you sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/outside the cinema, you can get access to our full old show archives, which has got so much stuff. Actually, let me take a look here, and as I'm getting this link for him, and see if I can actually see how much stuff is currently in it. If it will let me know how much space is filled of it, and of course that doesn't say that. Why would it? I guess not. Well, but there's a lot. Trust me. There is a lot. Copy link. There is a password to it, which I will also send to you, Austin. But Austin, thank you very much for signing up. Send us some flicks of your choice. I'm sending him that thing now. Thanks for signing up. I'm going to type it right here. He probably will hear this after the fact and be like, what a nerd. I'm just trying to pirate your content. But okay, so there you go, Austin. Your information is sent to you. The password. Just send him the password.
Yeah, that would be good.
Exciting stuff here. And sent. There we go. Exciting. But yes, if you'd like to sign up for the for the Patreon, you get all of the old shows that are no longer available anywhere, plus all the throwdown movies, a bunch of music episodes that aren't available anywhere else, all kinds of stuff available in there. So it's crazy. It's crazy how much is in there. And I think a lot of you guys that are on the Patreon actually forget sometimes how much stuff is on there. So I'm going to take a sip of my iced coffee in my Gwen Stefani cup from Las Vegas.
Oh.
Too much cream. Other big news this week. So, hey, lots of people asking about Don't Forget to Leave. When can they see it? When can they watch it? Well, we are in the Toronto Liftoff Film Festival, which is happening as of right now, actually.
Nice.
And this film festival actually, not surprisingly, but they do a streaming element to their festival. So you can actually stream Don't Forget to Leave by buying a ticket for the festival.
Okay.
And I'll put the link in the show notes. But the actual time period, I'll tell you right now as I get it all right here. Starting this morning and streaming through July. Make sure I give you guys the right date. Through July 17th. So what you got to do is you got to buy a ticket because it is a film festival, but you can purchase a ticket online. If you're looking to buy a ticket, you could also just go to Liftoff. Is there a specific one here? Checkout.liftoff.network/features-toronto-liftoff-2024/. But I'm sure if you just do a search for Toronto Liftoff Festival 2024, you can get a link there, but I'll put it. And so you can stream that. You can stream Don't Forget to Leave along with all the other films in the festival. If you do watch it and you buy a ticket, first off, please let me know so I can give you a thank you and a shout out on the show. And also you can vote for the film for, I believe, a number of different things. Documentary of the festival, best feature of the festival. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. So if you watch it and you enjoy it, first of all, let me know. I'd love to hear from you and love to give you a shout out. And then also vote for the film because the accolades help us so much. Like, I've learned like festival awards when you're trying to work, a film out there is one of the biggest things. So if you can vote for it, hopefully we can get in there and that would be awesome. But it's the Toronto Liftoff Festival 2024. They have a whole bunch of festivals that they run throughout the year in Tokyo and London. We've been in the Toronto one before when we did Safer Spaces was in that one and it did very well over there. So, So through the 17th, you can buy a ticket for that and you can stream it and you can watch it and hopefully enjoy it. So that's all I really got. You got anything to share here? You got anything going on?
No, not really.
Oh, well, okay then. That's good.
Yeah.
That is good. Okay, as we had mentioned last week, too, I'm going down for a surgery on July 17th. Chris and I are going to figure out when we're going to record some episodes to get ahead of the game. We'll let you know kind of when. Well, the last show that we would do live will be whatever the Mondays before that. What's that?
Right.
14th, the 13th would be the last recorded show leading into that, and then we'll probably have 5 or 6 weeks of pre-recorded episodes, but you guys shouldn't see anything not in the feed or anything like that. I'll try to get everything set up and date marked beforehand so that way it'll all just go in when it's supposed to. But I had a couple people reach out and just, give me well wishes. Thank you. Appreciate that. If everything goes the way it should be, I should be perfectly fine and back to gambling man Bill after a couple weeks. So okay, cool. Let's get into these movies. Which one do you want to start with?
Just do them in the order I watched them. We'll do the efficiency expert first.
All right, cool. That's the that's how I watch them also. All right, so I got a trailer for it.
The moccasin factory in Spotswood. Do you know where this Spotswood is?
Errol Wallace is a business consultant who's trying to bring Spotswood up to date.
We look at your whole operation, not just manufacturing, but your equity position, debt-to-equity ratio, market determinants, tax minimization, the whole corporate picture.
Really? Carrie Spencer is a nice young guy who's only trying to get a date.
I was thinking I'd ask Michelle to dinner.
I wouldn't.
Both of them have a lot to find out about life.
No, I'd like to see your records for the last 5 years.
That's them. I've got small handwriting.
And love.
I've got a date. I'm meeting Cheryl.
And did you tell Cheryl?
Among the moccasins.
Lovely, lovely. One of the first laws of industry, reduce the amount of unnecessary contact between employees.
He said we're going to have to work pretty closely together.
Good luck.
Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, we couldn't hear each other speak the other way.
we upset him?
Ben Mendelsohn
You could have quite a future to set your mind with.
in Spotswood.
Oh, I know we're a little out of touch with the outside world sometimes, but from what I've seen of it, we're not missing much.
It's an ordinary place where no one is ordinary.
Beery cakes with your port.
And where business as usual is anything but.
Okay, Spotswood, international title, and if you're looking for it on any of the streaming services, it is under the title The Efficiency Expert. This is directed by, why did that do that? Directed by Mark Joffe, who has also worked on a number of television series in Australia, but not really. I mean, I guess this is probably, as far as features go, like his most, I guess, well-known, at least in terms of his direction stuff, because a lot of TV stuff, currently even still working on a lot of TV stuff for Australian television. Well, he did The Matchmaker in 1997 with, was that Janine Garofalo? Yeah, which was a very weird film to watch because Janine Garofalo is definitely a lesbian.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And much like that weird Ellen movie, Mr. Wrong. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
There was this time period where they were trying to force actors and actresses into roles. I mean, I guess it's still like that, into roles that like were opposite of what their sexuality was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love Janine Garofalo, so he directed that. That's the other probably well-known thing from his filmography. But The Efficiency Expert is one that's been around mostly because of the cast, really. Anthony Hopkins, Ben Mendelsohn, and then also Toni Collette and Russell Crowe are all in this, all before becoming like hugely popular and having big breakout films. So it's a very interesting watch to see, especially Russell Crowe, who's very, very young in this.
Yeah, took me a while to even recognize him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, story of this is pretty simple. You have Anthony Hopkins playing Errol Wallace. He is an efficiency expert. He works for a company that is hired by businesses and companies to come in and basically review their books, review how their workload is set up, and, you know, take a look at their whole structure of their company or in their business and tell them what they can do to save money. Usually companies that are struggling to make a profit is the type of thing where these companies are brought in. And these, you know, this is not, fiction. There's real companies that do this. I've worked for a number of companies that have brought them in. And basically, you know, they're brought in to help you save money. And there's, you know, despite the rose-colored glasses this film paints in the final act of it, if a company like this comes in, people are losing their jobs. It's just how it is. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree to it. But businesses, that's how it is.
Yeah, I think it's, I think a lot of it, and this is me thinking everybody's an asshole. I believe it's done to allow the executives to just go, my hands are clean. They told me I had to do this.
I mean, essentially,
it's a chicken shit way of saving your company.
But, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to the point of the film. But unfortunately, it's the nature of business. And good people lose their jobs every day. You and I have both been through it with different downsizing and like it's
just dumb assholes.
Yeah. And there's, 100%. Yeah. Dumb assholes who don't understand it. But again, if you're a business owner and you're losing money and you have to find a way to save that money, unfortunately, people will lose their jobs. There's downside. It's just, you don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. But if you're working a company that is in the red, you can't continue to pay people.
No, and maybe if your company's gotten into the red, you're not that good at it.
Right. Exactly. So, but this idea of like, you know, you see a lot of movies, and this is probably getting ahead of ourselves, of the like, you know, the romanticization of like the person coming in to save the day for like a failing business or whatever. And like, if a business is failing, sometimes it's not always your own fault. You know, it's the type of situation where maybe you know, bad economy, bad bad, your product is not necessarily something that's needed currently, or
or it's not the best in, best price.
right. Or and that's the thing too with a lot of small companies, as I have found out as a small business owner, is like you have to charge more, but people don't want to pay more. So you're in this like weird spot of, how do I survive?
Yeah. You can't compete with Amazon.
No, exactly. Yeah. Or like if I somebody hires like a bigger production company to work on something, well, yeah, you might be able to pay that. They might be able to cut their prices, but I can't pay my bills if I don't charge a certain amount or whatever, But the film does a really good job of showing us 1966 Australia. The company is a moccasin company called, what the heck was it called? Balls? No, not Balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, Balls. I just like to say the word balls.
I know.
Balls. Balls. Anyway, it's a moccasin factory called Balls. And it's run by, it's not like owned by, it's one guy that owns it, Mr. Ball, played by Alwyn Kurtz. And we didn't mention Bruno Lawrence yet. Bruno Lawrence is in this also, and Bruno Lawrence has showed up on the show a lot recently. And over the history, obviously, he's the star of star of Quiet Earth, and recently he Jack Be Nimble. There was one other one we did, As Time Goes By, that he was in.
Oh, okay.
That we've all done fairly recently. Bruno Lawrence, obviously legendary Australian actor. So, Mr. Ball runs the company, and he's had the same people working for him for 30 years, and it's the type of thing where it's like a family environment where everybody knows each other, everyone likes each other, they all have a good time. But the thing that I noticed immediately as they brought in Anthony Hopkins' character is like nobody's doing any work.
No, but they get the product out. That's the thing. They're so efficient already that they're that good at their job.
Right.
So bringing him in isn't going to do much. They're loyal to the company because they're all wearing the shoes. They get the work done. They're not behind on anything. So the problem's not the workers. At least that's how I saw it.
Until they start to tell you about the financials of the company and how basically they have
and that's Ball.
Right. Well, yeah, he's the issue is what it comes down to. But Anthony Hopkins is like this he's like this ruthless, him and the guy that he works with, the company he works with, they're these ruthless guys that come in and basically, make him, figure it out, downsize how many people you're going to let go. And they have an ongoing issue with another factory or a plant that they're working with that has caused a major uproar because they're looking to lay off half the staff or something like that. But the guy that he works with is like a true scumbag where he leaks the report, but he leaks the report with inflated numbers so that when they come back, it's really the 400 jobs that needed to be liquidated as opposed to the 1,000 that this guy told everybody.
Yeah. It's an old trick. I've seen a lot of comedy writers suggest stuff like that. Like if you have a joke or a scene in a movie that you really want to stay in, you got to make something worse so that the censors will say, pull that one. And then you actually have a little leeway to be like, all right, I'll give you that one, but this one stays. And that's what they're doing. They're playing it. They are as bad as personal injury lawyers, that one guy.
Right.
He's ruthless. He's just a ruthless sociopath.
Right.
Business-wise.
I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I do on the side a little bit. I've been reselling sneakers for the last year or so. And when you sell to another reseller, you go in and they're always like, well, what's your number? And you always tell them $100 over what you actually want. So never I watch a lot of sneaker reselling videos now too, and these people go in there and they'll go into a bigger store like a Cool Kicks or whatever, and the guy will be like, oh, what are you looking to get for him? Oh, I don't know. Why don't you tell me? No, never do that. Come in high because they're going to come in low to start. So if you're saying you want to flip a pair of Nike Travis Scotts or whatever, and you want to flip them for $600, and he's going to tell you $400, knowing that he'll go to $500. But if you say, let's start at $400, or you let him say $400 first, your chances of getting to $500 are far slower than if you were like, oh, I'm looking for $600.
Yeah.
So it's common business. I don't think we're not breaking any new ground there, but so
It's just, it really bugs me that people can't just be like, hey, I'm not going to take anything less than $475 on this. And I don't want to take your lowest offer. So what are we going to do?
And you can run that. And depending on the industry, I think there's a lot of, sneakers I've found is there's a lot of leeway just because there's different sizes sell for different prices. And like, it's very crazy, but like kind of hearing the business side of this film when they were like talking about things and he's looking at the ledgers, and even I was like, well, like I get that they're getting the job done, but there's definitely some things that can be fixed here. But as you said, it all kind of dates back to the owner, and the owner has been so loyal for so long that he's been blind to things that could have been fixed much easier earlier on. And that's the thing too, is like you can't allow people to work for 30 years and do something a certain way, have it continuously be costing you money, and then be like, oh, no, now we need to do this.
Yeah.
Which happens more often than not. Usually in a company, when a company is bought out by somebody else, is where you see that. We saw it when we worked at Sam Goody, when Best Buy came in and purchased Sam Goody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'd been doing things for years a certain way, and then they were like, well, now that we own you, now you're going to sell DVD players or whatever. Like,
yeah.
it was a great
cables. It was all about cables.
It was all about cables.
Cables and batteries.
Yep, because the markup on that shit is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think anybody buys $80 cables anymore.
I do I'll buy expensive cables for my camera stuff.
Okay.
So, for example, my Blackmagics, I can record to a SSD drive. I don't necessarily have to record to not a card. Like wouldn't record like this, one of these cards. I can record to. Right. I'm showing you, nobody else can, but like I can record to a drive like this because it's got a USB-C to plug into.
Okay.
Knowing the speeds that I have to write to one of these little Samsung T drives, I'm not going to buy a cheap cable because if I lose that footage, I'm fucked.
Yeah, but no cable is worth $80 unless you're looking at like a 200-foot XLR, whatever.
Right.
thing.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Everything's relative.
Professional grade.
Everything's relative for sure.
Sam Goody customers weren't coming in for $80 monster cables.
No. Or DVD players.
We'd have to sell them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best thing about that whole thing was the discount we got at Best Buy.
That's true.
It was 5% over cost, which I had never had.
It's insane.
From any place. Yeah. So basically we just paid sales tax on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately, I was broke as fuck back then. So I couldn't.
Yeah.
If I had that discount now, I'd be buying and reselling cameras left and right.
Kidding, huh?
So Anthony Hopkins, he's getting to know these people as he's kind of going through it. He's got a wife at home that he doesn't see much because he's working so much. He's got the problems with the other guy that he works with. Then you bring in, you've got Ben Mendelsohn's character, Carrie, who is like been working there for years. His dad works there. He's got the hots for the boss's daughter, who's a piece of shit. And then you got Russell Crowe's character, who's he wants to take over the company, so he's trying to work his way up the ladder. So he's trying to work his way in with Anthony Hopkins' character. So there's some interesting stuff going on between the different characters. And one thing I think this film did do right was they gave you a nice breadth of the type of people. Yeah. You got, Carrie, who's the nice kid who just really kind of wants the best for everybody, but also like take care of himself. Anthony Hopkins is the troubled guy that, works in big business, but doesn't really believe in it. You got the blindsided owner who wants the best for everyone, but has not worked well over the years. You have Toni Collette, who plays the pseudo girlfriend for Carrie, who's the romantic lead, but then he thinks he's in love with the daughter. So there's a whole bunch of different characters going on. Yeah. And now I can see why David pick this film being from Melbourne and kind of having like that. And we'll say this again when we do the other film. It is inherently very Australian.
Yeah.
which is a world that seems so foreign to me. And we've said this before, even like when you did like we would do like a lot of the exploitation stuff, like Wake and Fright is kind of the one that we always go back to because it's such an extreme picture of life in the outback. But a lot of that stuff kind of bleeds through into the everyday life in the suburbs in a lot of the Australian movies that we've watched over the years. I feel like we've watched a lot of Australian flicks over the years. And some of them work so well and some of them work poorly. But this one felt like a very like slice of life, and it felt real, which I think a lot of the other ones maybe not so much. Did you get that feeling too, or is that just me?
No, they toned all of the normal movie stuff down a bit, because it's just a little quiet drama, and you can't really go overboard with that too much because then you lose the sincerity of the characters, I think. So yeah, it definitely felt more intimate, like it was for the stage or a character study.
Yeah. And where this film also like really does a really good job is in the acting, like the actors. And Ben Mendelsohn, who is obviously a big deal now, is really good in this, playing the kind of like young dreamer type character, I guess would be the way to look at it. And he's great. I watched The Outsider this past year, which was the Stephen King series for HBO Max.
Yeah, my wife said I need to watch that.
It was very good. He's the lead in it, and he's excellent in it. And he was really good in like Ready Player One and all of the Marvel stuff he's been in. And he's going to be in.
Yeah.
He's in Secret Invasion too, I think. So.
Oh right, he was the Kree. Were they Kree? No. I don't remember. He was the green guy in Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and he was in. He showed up
in Rogue One.
He was in Rogue One also, but he was in the Dark Knight. He was in the Dark Knight Rises. Like he's been in a ton of stuff now.
What I found really interesting was that I don't want to call it a speech impediment or a lisp, but his very specific way of saying certain sounds, you could see in him as a little kid. It was still there. It was like, it's just, he's kind of not embraced it, but he's not trying to hide it either. Because he definitely not slurs, but sort of blends a couple of specific sounds together when he talks. Almost like a Stallone thing where part of his lip doesn't move when it should.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a mean way. It's like one corner just doesn't tick up when he makes an S sound. So it's a little bit different. It's a very, I guess what I'm saying is a very distinct way to recognize him through his speech pattern.
Yeah, he's very good.
That's all.
He's very good.
Because I love trying to pick out voice actors before looking them up. And that was just a mental note I made that if I hear that, it's him.
Good. Good. So Anthony, I mean, your real crux of the story is Carrie and Errol, who is Anthony Hopkins and Ben Mendelsohn's characters. And the Anthony Hopkins character arc is interesting because it feels pretty true too. As he gets entwined with these guys, they ask him to come help with the slot car races. That's like the big thing for them. And he does that classic. He stops looking at these people as numbers and starts looking at them as the people that they are. And again, it's, rose-colored glasses of like in the real world, like it's not going down like that. In the real world, Anthony Hopkins is going to be like, we can't let these people go. And his company is going to be like, tough shit. We're letting them go. Yeah. And now we're letting you go too.
To be honest, I think given his age and probably how long he's been doing it, because I don't remember if he said how long he's been doing that job. This may be the first group that has actually treated him without hostility.
Right. Because we see the hostility from the other one that he's working with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He has no friends. He's just there. He just kind of floats around and does his job. And he connects with people finally. And I think that's what spurs him at the end he doesn't set them perfectly on a happy ending, but he does more for that company than he did for any others.
Yeah.
Because
he connects with them like he hasn't before.
Yeah, I think he really appreciates their work ethic, their commitment to, quality, because they can eyeball all the stuff. They don't have to really measure anything anymore. They're all that good.
Yeah.
And I think that really got to him.
It sure seemed to.
Yeah.
And it's all presented in a very easy to digest way. Like, this film is very simple in the way it does things, but not in a like treating you like you're dumb way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's hey, you probably know what's going to happen, but here, watch.
Right. I loved Russell Crowe's character because he's so slimy and just so out for himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even when like he gets the job at the efficiency place, like Hopkins is just like so much like, oh, not my fucking problem anymore. You're like,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know really what else to say much about it. You think you're ready to grade? Anything you want to add before we do?
No, I think that this is like you can get the basic idea, but it's all about the little moments in this one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, Chris, do you recommend, and what is your grade for Spotswood, also known as the efficiency expert?
All right. So I will recommend this, but people have to know going in that this is like local hero. It's not like anything else we usually cover. So it is just a quiet, character-driven story, which isn't a bad thing. Considering it actually surprised me, and Hopkins was, his character had a good heart, which I didn't expect, because he was a good person from the beginning. It wasn't like he had to come around; he just had to break through the wall of separation between him and his I don't want to say subjects because it's not an experiment. The company in front of him, he starts to see them different, and you knew it would happen. I just wasn't sure how or what the end result would be, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because like we all go into a Star Wars movie knowing the good guys are eventually going to win.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to give this a B+.
B+, okay, high grade.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah, I'm going to recommend it also. It's a solid little flick. It's not something I probably would have ever watched without David suggesting it for, so big props to him for that because I did enjoy it. It's not something that's going to stick with me, mostly because I'm not Australian and I didn't grow up in that area. So I can totally see while, if you're from this area and you know this life growing up, why this film would be so much like closer to you. Much like I think when we see like any movie that's got like a true representation of Boston, whether it's The Town or like any of those, we always just kind of like, even if we don't like particularly like it, we will still kind of gravitate towards it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we feel it and we can understand it. And like, I think for you and me, Session 9 is a really good example of that.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Because let's be honest, Session 9 is not like the greatest film. It's solid for sure, but like it's, kind of weird, doesn't make a lot of sense. But we grew up like a couple miles from that insane asylum and we all tried to break in there and we all tried to get in there. So it's like ingrained in us because of that. This is the type of thing, and it's going to be the same thing with Death in Brunswick, I think, where if you grew up in the suburbs of Melbourne, like you're going to have, it's going to hold a special place for your heart. But with that said, I think it was good. I do. I enjoyed it. I think that the acting in it is awesome, and obviously you can tell because people like Toni Collette and Anthony Hopkins and Russell Crowe and Ben Mendelsohn have all gone on to have these massive careers and continue to do so. So it's the type of thing where getting those great actors in these smaller roles early on, was a great coup for the team that made this. So I will say I will give it a B. Straight B, not quite as high as you. There's a couple slow spots there, and there was a couple points where I was like rolling my eyes a little bit over the like kind of corniness of it. But overall, pretty good.
Yeah. When I worked at GBH and doing the captioning, there was a story one day that I had to watch 6 times because that's how the news works. And it was about, I believe it was the Louisville Slugger baseball bat company, and the one factory was going to close, and that would put like 65% of the town out of into unemployment. So we do have a lot of examples like this here. But the thing is, like, baseball hasn't decreased. So like, it's weird that, they could have too many factories or whatever, but this was but you can see, because it was all the same kind of people, I was watching a thing about how you make baseballs, and they just glue the ball part, the center wrap that's like wrapped 15 times. And then they hand fit the leather pieces into place because they've done it for so long. And it's just, as I'm watching that, this was after I had watched the efficiency movie. I was watching them making baseballs, and I'm like, yep, okay, so that's a thing everywhere.
It is.
But it's very specific. There are specific parts regarding specifically Australian stuff.
For sure.
So, yeah.
So if we want to keep talking about specifically Australian, our next flick, Death in Brunswick, will take us there too. I don't think I have a trailer for this. Let me check YouTube. There's not one on IMDb, but let's check the tube and see what we got here. Had you heard of this?
I'd heard the title. I know I've heard the title, but that's it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I heard the title. All right, here we go. Death in Brunswick. Should be a trailer here. Damn it. Wait, no, that's not. Oh, wait, yeah, it is. All right, here we go.
Let's start at the beginning. That's Carl. Now, the one thing that everyone agreed on was that Carl was slightly unusual.
Stupid bastard. Make a decision.
You're hopeless, Carl. Hopeless. When are you going to grow up? He would have been a better man if he'd finished university.
But the one person who never put him down was Sophie.
I'm Sophie.
Carl. So it was obvious when Carl and Sophie got together,
We all thought you were a puff.
it had to be something special.
What are you doing?
Oh, nothing much. Just sitting around, thinking about you.
Like all true romantics, they thought the world belonged to them. Not everyone agreed.
How old is she? She's beautiful, really beautiful.
She's exceedingly common, I can imagine.
How old is she? She likes me.
Why don't you tell her the truth just for once?
How old is she, Carl? Trying to think of it not so much as losing a daughter, but more like gaining a son.
But something rather magical had happened to Carl. As this movie so clearly proves,
How come I didn't meet you years ago?
I don't know. Probably because I was still in school.
there is love,
You've met me now, haven't you?
laughter,
This is how you do it.
and life. Before, after, and during Death in Brunswick.
I don't want to live like this anymore. Look at me.
When it all hits the fan,
What's happened to you?
poor old Carl just forgets to duck.
I fell over.
Sam Neill, Zoe Carides, and John Clark. An award-winning performance, probably.
Hi.
Was that you?
Huh?
Must have been me. Sorry.
Death in Brunswick.
Okay, Death in Brunswick, 1990. Sam Neill, who is obviously, as we said earlier, been in a million things for our listenership. In the Mouth of Madness is where everyone goes. But I mean, he was also in Jurassic Park. He was in Memoirs of an Invisible Man. He was in The Piano.
He's also in that Omen sequel before this one.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's still. I mean, he was in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh yeah.
Showed up in the last Jurassic World movie. Yeah, just scrolling through his stuff here. Like, the guy never stops working.
No.
He was in. There was one specific one that I wanted to mention, and of course I can't remember it now. And he has so many friggin' credits on his IMDb, I can't find it.
Of course.
But he's been in a million things, and he's. I'm not even going to keep scrolling. There's too many things. He plays Carl Cookie Fitzgerald. Zoe Cardice, she looks so familiar, but I don't recognize anything.
Nope.
In her thing. She kind of looks like a young Jennifer Aniston in this. I think that's more the 1990s aesthetic more than anything.
Yeah.
But so she plays the love interest Sophie, and then you got the legendary John Clark, who's been in a million things also. He's like, as the friend Dave, like he's kind of the weird kind of like linchpin in this film.
Yeah.
And like carrying everything out. But the story is very simple. You have Sam Neill's Carl, who basically is living in the suburbs of Melbourne. His mom is visiting with him and basically, you know, beats him down verbally with like, why don't you do better with your life?
Oh, yeah. She's a complete asshole.
So terrible. Oh, I wish if you had finished school, you would have been a better mate. All the things. He's got a new job working in the kitchen of a rock and roll club called the Bombay Club. And you got the prototypical Australian meathead with the leather pants and the long hair and the ponytail. He played what was his character's name? Yanni? No, Laurie. Yanni was the guy that ran the club.
Right.
And he's like the brute guy, bully. Got the guy that runs the club named Yanni. He's, you know, the typical club owner. And like you got definitely late 80s aesthetic because it was 1990 and it was suburban, as we said, Melbourne. So it's a lot of hair metal. The bands are like very like hair metal and teased up, a lot of leather pants and like that whole deal. But the story, you get Carl. He's kind of been down on his luck. He meets Sophie, falls for Sophie. They have like a budding relationship. And then the guy that works in the kitchen with Carl is he was supposed to be a Turkish immigrant, right?
I think so.
And he's dealing drugs out of the kitchen and like buying used stereos because that was like a big thing in the 80s was like stolen stereos.
Oh yeah, they called it a blaster. We called them boom.
Yeah,
boxes.
it's crazy to think that was like a thing. Like people would steal that and then sell that on the black market.
Yeah, did that in Die Hard 3 too,
Yeah.
and then he yelled at everybody.
What movie was the Hey Man, free stereo? It was one of the movies we watched that it was like looting.
Oh shit, I don't remember, but
you remember the quote though, right?
The line. Yeah.
Anyway, so but we learned that Sophie is actually arranged to be married to Yanni, the guy that runs the club. So basically these guys come in and they work for the club. They steal the guy's money that works in the kitchen with Carl because they know he's dealing drugs and stuff, and they beat the shit out of him, and then they threaten Carl and make him go back in, and then the Mustafa comes back and he blames Carl for ratting him out, which he didn't. Carl accidentally kills him because he runs up on him and he was holding a fork, like a big like cooking kitchen fork, and accidentally stabs him. So he calls his friend Dave, and he's like, "Dave, you got to help me." And Dave helps him. I'm gonna be honest, Chris. You're my friend, and I love you, and I've known you for a long time, but I am not going to help you bury a body.
I'm not going to call you. No one's going to know.
Right.
I mean, why would I tell anybody?
That's the thing that, like, I totally get the idea of I need help with this. I'm in over my head and I need help. And Dave very much is like, well, I'm an accessory to this now, so I'm not going to say anything. And I know myself that if I had done something even by, and this was purely by accident, like, absolutely. And the thing is, Carl doesn't really have any reason to not tell the police.
Right.
He just gets worried and decides that it's a better deal to get rid of the body. Okay.
Yeah. Because he needs the job. He doesn't want any trouble from those other guys. And he'll just get himself beat up if they know he told.
Right.
So
right.
That was, to me, that was the most difficult part of the movie for me to get on board with, was the fact that he didn't just walk away.
Right. Right.
Because that's easy to do.
Very easy to do. So the crux of the movie is the relationship between him and Sophie, and then him dealing with this, with accidentally killing this guy. And then also the repercussions from it, because the wife and son of the guy that was killed come looking for him, and Carl can't like fully cover himself on this because he feels badly about it. So he ends up getting fired from the place anyway because, I don't know, reasons. What was the reason for them firing him?
It was a little complicated, wasn't it? It was a whole bunch of things that led all together. But that one dude just didn't like him.
Right.
And he wanted his money. He wanted to get paid. Yeah, I think it was all sort of it wasn't spoken about, but everything that happened down in the kitchen.
Yeah, I think it was one of those, you're a pain in the ass. We don't want to deal with you anymore. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, because there's like 15 reasons.
Right. So they fire him and his buddy Dave is there with him. And so they go about their business. But then when he goes back to like talk to Sophie, she's like, I can't talk to you anymore. I'm supposed to marry this guy. Like, you know, basically what we did was a mistake or whatever. But the one of the things that they bring up in this that I thought was interesting was that Sophie's supposed to be 19 and Sam Neill's character is supposed to be 34.
Yeah.
Now, I am well past the age of 34, but remembering, and even now, I don't even think I can have a conversation with a 19-year-old, let alone try to get into a relationship with one. Like,
yeah.
And they talk about it like it's taboo. And it's not, I mean, 19, it's over 18, whatever your things are, like, yeah, okay, there's that section of it. But like just the like idea of like having to spend more than a few moments with someone of that age makes my skin crawl. like, so how's your home equity? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, that no one can afford a home, so
right.
It's a useless question.
Right. So there's that weird kind of dynamic, and there's some, I don't know. What do you think?
I think this is a movie about somebody with the best of intentions and the lowest of educations.
Okay, yeah. All right, run with that. I like that. That's way better than what I was thinking.
I think he's a nice guy. He means well in the beginning. Finds out how easy it is to just make his problems disappear and kind of gets on that boat for a little bit there. Doesn't fully finish the ride, which is good, but yeah, this is the story of a guy that knows he's got to clean up his act and he just can't help himself.
Yeah. This is, I mean, this movie's got some issues with its pacing and its like at one point it's just kind of like a straight up romance. And that's the thing, is like this murder that we're talking about doesn't come until like more than halfway into the movie. So the first, because this runs about 4 hour 45. The first 45 minutes or so is just like romantic comedy type stuff.
Yeah, they did one thing in the beginning that I thought they would keep doing, but they didn't. You go into the movie knowing the title, so obviously there's going to be 4 weddings and a funeral, and we get a shot of a body sticking out of a kitchen oven.
Yeah,
and they trick you into thinking that it was his mother. She's the death in Brunswick. But then they never trick you again, which I was kind of disappointed with. I was hoping they would keep doing that.
Yeah. So then from the next 45 minutes on, it's just kind of like running the romantic comedy angle. And it's really not, I say comedy, it's really not that funny. Like a lot of the stuff that and it's played pretty fairly like, maybe not serious, but played straightforward. Like there's not like any slapstick stuff going on or like any of that. And then they bring in the accidental murder, and there's a little bit of black comedy that goes with that when they're trying to like bury the body in the graveyard and like stuff.
Did his friend work at the graveyard?
Yes. So he knew which.
That's what I thought.
He knew which graves were being dug and what they were doing, and that's why he was like, oh, they're going to bury the husband on top of the wife. So I know that grave is already dug, so we can put the body in there. And
that's a great idea.
It really is. I'll have to make a note of it. I don't know anyone that works at the cemetery, but
Yeah, but you can scout it. And see. You read the obituaries, and then you go figure out what cemetery they're going to.
Fair enough. So it definitely gets more interesting after the guy's killed, and then like the other Turkish guys show up and they throw a Molotov cocktail at the club, and they think that this guy had something to do with it, and that's kind of where some of the interesting stuff comes into play, because he kind of got this moral dilemma, whereas he did kill this guy, like,
yeah,
and he feels bad about it, but like also he's still somewhat selfish. Right. And is he going to stick it to the guys from the club, but he's in love with Sophie. And then we find out also, like, in like the final 10 minutes, there's a bunch of stuff he didn't tell Sophie about, how he was, he's still married, and like, and her character is not super fleshed out. So I think that's kind of where I got lost in, like, okay, I get it. She's hot. Like, cool. But like, give me some more substance to her.
It.
Like, why?
You don't
like,
get any.
Why are you like, you just met her and you're already in love with her? Because they do that thing where like he's having the conversation with his buddy Dave, and he's like, I think I'm in love. And he's like, okay. When did you meet her? Oh, yesterday. Like, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there. We've all been there.
Yeah. He's a little old for that, instant crush kind of thing.
Right. But I also get that he's lived a fairly lonely life, because they definitely, as it plays out, they let you know that he grew up privileged. Like, he had money when he was younger, and he's like, trying to find his footing in his own life, and why his like mom won't necessarily, like, she's super kind of controlling, but also like in that mean sort of way.
Yeah, she's aggressive, not passive aggressive.
Right. And then he's gonna kill her, but then she gets sick and he saves her. And I felt like if they had brought that stuff up earlier, I think it could have worked. But this overall, it's not bad. There's some fun stuff going on. Sam Neill's always, from pretty much everything I've ever seen Sam Neill in, I enjoy. So it's definitely, but this one even more so than the first film we talked about, is if you're Australian and you're from this area, you're going to get far more out of it than us who live in suburban Massachusetts in the States, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
I saw a thing, I read one of the reviews on IMDb that were basically like yelling in the review. Their review was how everyone from the south of the United States can't understand this movie. And like, you don't appreciate it because you live in the south of the United States and not in Melbourne. So like, you shouldn't even, it was like a weird, like gatekeepery review. Can I find it here? I'd actually like to read it.
That's weird. I gotta look that up.
Yeah, I don't remember. Shit, Australia. Is it this one? I don't know. I'll try to look it up later. There's a decent amount of reviews on it, but it was very much like, if you're from this, if you're not from, it was gatekeeping. Like, if you're not from here, you wouldn't understand it anyway. And okay, cool.
I understand people. Like, I don't see what the big deal is.
It's true. So the director, John Ron, who's also the writer of it, has worked on a number of things. I think we may have actually covered. Oh, no, I guess not. I thought we had covered. Oh, we covered Muggers, didn't we?
I don't remember that.
Muggers was. I think we did cover this. Brad and Gregory, two broke medical students in their final year, go to a loan shark, contentious lengths. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
He worked on the script on that, but Feathers. He worked on Feathers. He directed Feathers. Not a whole lot looks familiar other than that. Jumped the gun on saying he's done a bunch of stuff. Anyway, all right. Hey, anything else, or should we grade?
Yeah, we can grade.
All right, Chris. Do you recommend? Was your grade for 1990's Death in Brunswick?
Yeah, I'll recommend this, but it's another drama, pretty much. There might be a couple funny parts, but I would not consider it a comedy, even though a lot of the reviews seem to think it's funny. So I don't get that. There are a couple jokes, but I think I found the review.
Oh, okay.
Americans telling the Brits and Aussies what's funny.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll give it a B-. It's well done. Sam Neill plays a good version of this just floating human being without purpose. He gives us a good idea that he has an idea of where to go, but doesn't do it.
Fair enough.
He's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
He's dating a 19-year-old because he still is 19.
He's got some questionable morals too, so.
Yeah, just like a 19-year-old.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. B-, and yeah, why not?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a yeah, why not too. It is for my recommendation. Yeah, why not? If you like Sam Neill, then yeah, definitely check it out. He does a good job in it. But overall, it's good, not great. And I definitely, just like we said with the other one, I can totally understand if you grew up in the suburbs of Melbourne, why you would definitely be like, yes, this movie is like who I am, and like I breathe this movie. I get it.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily relate to it.
Right.
So,
well, it's like every feudal Japanese movie we watch.
Yeah.
You know, I understand this point in time happened.
It's a thing.
I don't know what else is going on.
Right. So my grade, B-. Yeah, B- sounds good. B- sounds good. Definitely, I think worth watching if you like Australian film and you like Sam Neill. Then definitely watch it. But if it's just like you're looking for something to throw on, you probably won't catch you. So there you have it. 2 more Australian flicks.
Yeah.
Thank you, David, very much for suggesting them. We appreciate your support. If you'd like to be a member of the Patreon, patreon.com/outside the cinema. All right, let's see what our good friend Joe Harvey has in the Wrong Turn series this week.
Well, hello, Bill. Hello, Chris. And hello, OTC Nation. You boy Joe here. And while Bill did keep me in Greenbrier County, West Virginia this week, I don't remember the name of the town this takes place in, and I'm not going to bother to look it up. Regardless, he made me watch Wrong Turn 5, Bloodlines. Did we need 7 trailers at the start of this DVD? Probably not. Did I get 7 trailers at the start of this DVD? Yes, I
hope you
did.
got 8.
Would it have been a nice feature if I'd have been able to skip those trailers? Boy, it sure would have. This morning, I turned my order of operations on its head. I usually browse the wiki for a movie as I'm watching it, usually at least at the midway point, just to see if there's like a bit of trivia or information that I can use to either highlight a point of interest or roast something like a pork shoulder about a movie. Dig this, Wrong Turn 5 is apparently both a sequel to Wrong Turn 4, last week's film, and a prequel to Wrong Turn.
Okay.
Let that sink in for a minute. If you remember last week, Wrong Turn 4 takes place in the winter of 03, and Wrong Turn, the OG, takes place in seemingly like spring or summer of 03. What the snap, crackle, fuck is going on here?
Very tight timeline.
It's like Declan O'Brien, who did Wrong Turns 3 through 5, was like, hold on, everyone, there's more story to tell. Origins? Fuck that. I want to tell them about what happened in the weeks leading up to the first movie. But here's the gimmick. It has nothing to do with the first movie. And you know what? Let's even kill or injure characters from the first movie and then put them in that. It'll build our bridge. I said I wasn't going to dunk on Declan O'Brien because he died relatively young and based on what I read, was like a really great dude. But he operated like he was the Vince Russo of straight-to-video horror. Bro, it doesn't matter what was established in the first movie, bro. We're telling our own story here, bro. Tell an original story, bro? No, bro. We have to use the success of a good movie to tell our story, bro. Bro. Bro, Doug Bradley is
That's what Vince
apparently in
Russo
this?
talks like, though.
He's quickly established as the patriarch of the three ravenous rednecks, which is funny because they already established the patriarch in the first two films, and it's definitely not Doug Bradley. And it's also hilarious here because A, he's not deformed like they are, unless you count him being an older man who's gone a little soft around the belly. B, if this takes place after 4, but before the OG, where the fuck was he at? And C, as amazing an actor as Doug Bradley is, he's only getting a C+ at covering up his accent. But he's trying his best, so I won't be too hard on him. Even if he does sound like his character is more from Vermont than West Virginia. Whew, boy. Oh, boys, I don't know where to begin with this movie. I'm a bit torn. Because on the one hand, I'm happy that they leaned into the pacing, the kills, and the action. They understood that a horror movie is just as much about action as it is about the horror of that action. I'm not so happy with characters who have the IQ of a boiled yam, and that's not even the inbred contingent. The dialogue here is so unnatural that it makes aspartame look like raw cane sugar. And the fact that in each of these movies, they change how the mutant cannibals look. Like, I get that they're mutants and all, they're super inbred, but they shift looks more than if Mystique from the X-Men had worse ADHD than I do. I'm happy they took a little inspiration from 30 Days of Night and had the cannibals destroy the cell tower and cut the main power to this tiny little town. I'm not happy with, again, how the fuck is this all happening between winter and spring? Like, 2 of the 3 hillbillies have big old guts, but if they're this fucking busy all the time, they should be built like Rick Rude. Like, I don't know how many empty calories there are in human flesh, and to be fair, at no point did the cannibals eat a vegetable, at least on screen, but I think my point stands. Oh, there's a story here, right? Big festival happening in a small town. The festival is celebrating the time a few hundred years ago that hill folk slaughtered and ate this little town's entire population. And to celebrate it or to honor it, they're throwing a music festival, and they literally compare this to Coachella and Lollapalooza. Like, people come from all over the country. Listen, as a resident of a small town, I assure you that is not the case. Nobody is coming to Stanton, Michigan's Old-Fashioned Days or Edmore, Michigan's Potato Festival, other than like people that live in like a 30-mile radius. Although some of the attendees of those local festivals of mine do look like they belong in this movie. The cannibals attack, and like I said, it's 30 Days of Night, except it's warmer, and I don't know about you, but I would take hillbillies over vampires all day long. Mm-hmm. Like, and from here on out, whatever you're guessing about how the rest of the movie plays out, you're probably right. Normally, I would chastise a movie for blatantly stealing from other movies, but in this case, I'm going to let it slide. This was a late in the franchise, straight to video, $1.5 million production from people who clearly had no interest in doing anything new and or interesting. I mean, they kind of did by default, but you get it. They were giving you the same horror movie you've seen 175 times because, let's face it, people are going to watch it regardless. People who are only about one notch above the villains in this movie are going to go to Walmart, and as they're cashing out with their junk food, they're going to look at the end cap and think, oh, dang, man, there's a new wrong turn. Sweet. They ripped off, homaged, or stole from Assault on Precinct 13, Motel Hell, The Hitcher, 30 Days of Night, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and at least a few other movies I'm not going to try to remember because this is almost done. Oh, and we have to add Saw in there before the end of the credits. Also, Doug Bradley lives through the movie. Where the fuck was he in the first movie? This movie, realistically in the time frame, ends just like weeks or even days. Barely. I mean, I'll give you maybe a couple of months before the first movie. Where the fuck was he in that movie? Oh, right. Nobody involved cared about that. Here's the thing. The good. Surprisingly, there was actually quite a bit. I kind of dunked on this movie because there was a lot that was wrong with it. But, I make of the fun. But this moved along at a really good pace. It had fantastic kills and gore. It actually looked good, surprisingly, and didn't get boring once. Like, so far, this is second place in the franchise for me behind number 2. The bad. I can only imagine how much better this could have been with a more competent staff of writers and or producers. Also, I'm a huge fan of Doug Bradley, so watching him do his damnedest to hide his very regal British accent was like watching a baby deer try to stand up for the first time. It was clumsy at best, but he tried. Oh, and at no point were any surprise relations revealed. Bloodlines my ass. I think they only, you guys, hang on, fellas, I think they only named this Bloodlines because, like, Doug Bradley was in it and Pinhead needed to make his mortgage payment that month.
Well, you never know.
Wrong Turn 5 is maybe the most surprising of the series so far. I will give it a B. No,
okay.
No.
Right.
Wait. B minus. It was good, but let's not get crazy here. I'll be back next week with Wrong Turn 6, which wasn't written and directed by that Declan O'Brien guy, so yeah, maybe that'll save it. I guess it's supposed to be kind of a reboot. Anyway, it's called Last Resort, and I'm thinking maybe the hillbillies are going to head down to that one Jamaican sex resort. What is it, Hedonism? That would be fucking hilarious. Like, upper middle class couple Brent and Michaela are trying to salvage their wreck of a marriage by going to a swingers resort, while Festus is just there to try the butt meat canapé.
Ugh.
Anyway, until then, be good, everyone.
Thanks, Joe. Bizarre.
Oof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Where is Reverend Scott's new segment? There it is. He's going to review. I'm not going to read that. I'll just let him date. Well, I was going to read his thing, but just he'd listen.
Chocolate or pizza? That's how you win everybody over.
They got him with ham.
That makes sense, though.
They got them with ham.
They would have got me with ham.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
With Reverend Scott.
You might like it, but you will definitely think it's weird.
Hey there, Bill and Chris. This is Reverend Scott.
Oh, well, goddamn, what do you know?
And I have a gruesome film to talk about today that in some ways reminds me of Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. And I would talk about that right now, but you just keep fucking reviewing old movies on the show. Whose fault is it this time?
These are David S.'s picks.
Okay, David S., let's see what you got.
Skullduggery, 1970.
You aware that Carolyn was murdered?
What is happening?
My suspect. You
I don't know
aware?
where that's coming from.
Who knows? Who cares? But this is the first in our Burt Reynolds extravaganza. What's this about?
Burt and this other guy are trying to find phosphorus? As they were trying to find raw phosphorus.
Yeah, for color television tubes.
No one knows what the fuck that means, guys.
So they're gonna go out and they're gonna pretend to place bones, fake bones or whatever, and offset this lady's like quest so that they can just like steal all this phosphorus.
Yeah, they put the bones down and then it gives them time while she's digging up the area looking for...
Right. Thanks for clearing that up. I'm still lost as fuck, but ultimately, none of that matters, apparently, when they stumble upon a lost tribe or some shit of these half-man, half-apes.
It's a fucking society of chakas.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. Then we switch things up to a court case, I think, and I don't even know what the fuck's on trial here.
Are they man or are they animal?
Good question, but a better question would be, what do I grade Skullduggery? Well, that would be a D+. The plus is for Bert. The review gets a B. Then we fast forward like 100 years to
2017, the last movie star. It's originally run under the title Dog Years, starring Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, I think we know it stars Burt Reynolds. Tell me something I don't know.
From the director of Chillerama's Wadzilla,
Really?
Really? Nice. I watched that movie with you guys in person. You're welcome. I'm pretty sure at least one person got up and walked out during that showing. So anyway, how would I, famous internet celebrity Reverend Scott, relate to this The Last Movie Star movie?
If you're a big Hollywood star and you show up to a film festival and it's in the back room of a bar, you're not ready for that.
Oh, that's the worst. No respect. I don't really need to hear more about this one. I mean, we all know Ariel Winter is amazing, and Burt is giving it his all, and Chevy Chase was also there.
It turns into that, walking down memory lane and regretting your decisions and wishing that you could, right them. And he does what he can to kind of right those decisions.
Well, never mind then, because I've never made a wrong decision ever, so this doesn't sound like me at all. So I give The Last Movie Star an A-, and the review gets an A- as well. Moving on to something slightly more dark, I went to my local movie theater to a barely 1/3 full small auditorium, and I saw In a Violent Nature, starring absolutely no one you know, with a budget that likely involved maxing out a credit card and calling in favors.
What the hell? How did this get greenlit?
Well, that would be due to Shudder Films that produced this, and IFC Films that distributed it. Oh, and one of the producers was Peter Kaplowski. He also produced The Void, Psycho Gorman, and The Best Worst Movie. So it's no wonder he's involved with this one too. So why did I say this reminded me of Behind the Mask?
I think that's a very good question.
Well, it's because based on the trailers and how this movie is mainly constructed, the camera generally follows the killer throughout 80% of this film, which is mainly in the woods and starts near an old burned down fire tower. A group of dumb college kids, is there any other kind, find a very shiny gold locket hanging in the burned down fire tower.
That's
good time.
Weird.
Of course, they take it. Big mistake. From the ground rises a very large, gross man covered in dirt and rot. We find out this is Johnny. When alive, the first time, story goes that Johnny was a pretty simple-minded guy.
Like a special person.
Yeah.
A shitty kid tricked him into thinking there was a bag of toys at the top of the fire tower, and when he climbed up, they kicked him or tripped him, and he fell and broke his neck. He then returned to go on a killing spree. What these kids don't know is that Johnny could only be kept in the ground by hanging his mother's locket over his burial site. Now that locket is in their pocket, and Johnny wants it back. We follow behind Johnny, and you'll quickly notice something.
What am I missing?
This film is almost completely devoid of any music, and it has no score that I could hear. Just ambient noise and heavy footsteps, talking, screaming, gory, bloody, gushy, crackly sounds. Occasionally, Johnny will come across someone he thinks that may have the locket and violently murders them, only to be disappointed when he can't find it. At one point, he partially decapitates a guy and then uses the head and the body to break into the park ranger office. And then he takes their old-timey firefighter mask and some, 2 hooks with a chain between them, and that gives Johnny quite a unique look and a kind of cool, rusty weapon that he puts to very good use. But I already know what you're thinking. A hulking brute that comes out of the ground wearing a mask, killing kids in the woods, and he has mommy issues? Where have I heard this one before? And I get it, but this has a very different tone. There's quite a dark cloud, so to speak, over Johnny's head.
Yeah, you're a bad guy. I got it.
Especially if you're a blonde girl doing yoga on the cliffside. Holy shit, does he fuck her shit up. Johnny, he looks amazing. The acting is decent enough throughout, and there's a few kills that are absolutely brutal as fuck. You know how all these previews always say people threw up or they walked out and blah, blah, blah? There's at least one that I could see somebody getting up and walking out during this. But at the same time, there's one kill in the lake where somebody just kind of gets pulled under and then comes back up to the surface, seemingly drowned. And I felt like it could have just been slightly improved with maybe part of her coming up and the other part floating up separately or something like that. But what do I know?
What do I know? You know?
Now, there's not a whole lot I can do to really spoil this movie. It's kind of like you know what you're getting into. They have the thing, he wants the thing, they try to get away, they do things to try and stay alive, and basically that always fails, and he murders everyone, and sometimes he takes his sweet fucking time doing so. And I kind of appreciate that for the most part, although it does kind of have a somewhat anticlimactic ending. But it luckily ends better than, say, like 90% of found footage movies do. And no, this is not found footage, but those movies just typically don't know how to end and they just kind of have a hard cut. I don't know. I thought this was a unique take on the undead killer in the woods trope. Johnny is brutal, violent, unrelenting, and very intimidating, which he definitely needed to be for this to work. There's just enough backstory to keep it from not being aimless, and the gore effects were seemingly mostly practical and very well done. You can tell between that and the makeup, that's where a majority of the budget went. And it was all top notch. So I give In a Violent Nature a B+. If you just kind of grade it as just a horror movie, then I would probably give this an A-. I really hope they make a sequel possibly. I don't know, sometimes it's good to leave it alone, but if they decide to not cheap out or rush it, then I think a sequel could actually be pretty cool. Okay, that's all for this week, but tune in Outside the Cinema next week when Chris continues to have no idea what the fuck is going on.
I don't remember any of this at all.
No, I think that's the quality of the film.
All that and so many more forgettable quality films. But until then, peace and love, guys. Outside the Cinema with Bill and Chris.
The guys they're not bad guys. They're just self-interested.
I'm sorry, I stopped listening. All right, there you have it, another show. Thank you very much to David for his picks this week. Next week is what? Wizards and hang on, let me go. Wizards and Ralph Bakshi's Wizards and something else. Doom Generation. That's another David pick. This is David W. So, if you'd like to join the Patreon, patreon.com/outside the cinema. Welcome to Austin, the newest member. Join us on Twitch if you want, twitch.tv/outside the cinema. Follow Chris and I on Instagram at OTCBill at Cthulhu. Follow Don't Forget to Leave at _Doc. Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? All right, cool. Hey, everyone, thanks for hanging out, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Secret boyfriends, petty jealousies, orgies, and lesbian games.